Oh, that's marvellous, that is. I'm just about to start and he sighs wearily, sat sitting there in his high-vis jacket. They can't see it, Shane. There's no point wearing a high-vis jacket when you're on an audio podcast.
I'm not getting knocked down by another podcast again.
Can you name the one that knocked you over, or is that... We don't want to promote rivals, do we?
It was We Hate Brummie's podcast. I'm sure it was personal.
Oh, I think it was me driving, yeah. I remember now. Anyway, he is Shane. You probably worked that out from me calling him Shane. You may also have worked out he's a sort of Brummie, semi-plastic around the edges, bit posh. It is Comedy Slab. I'm Adrian Lacey in the southeast of England. You're very welcome. If this is your first Comedy Slab, a special welcome. But it's equally special if it's your 101st Comedy Slab. He's now put on his comedy high-vis hood. Who knew? I thought it was just a, what are they called, tabard waistcoat type. Tabard. So sorry.
This is very posh, isn't it? They're all there digging up the roads in Kent going, I say... Malcolm, could you pass the tabard?
Well, you're the posh one with the hood. Were you too much of a softie to cope with the rain? Which
it's a fleece. It's a high-vis fleece.
Okay.
And you laugh, but I tell you what, since I bought it, I haven't lost it once.
Well, that's something.
In fact, you can see it from neighbouring counties.
How much did they fleece you for your fleece?
Very good value. I got it on Amazon. It was only about £14.
Okay. Well, that should be good for a lifetime's supply of fleeces.
Well, all I can tell you is, since I bought it, my viz has never been so high.
Unfortunately, your stock is low, but we won't dwell on that. Okay, so on the virtual slab of comedy this week, we are dissecting a BBC radio show starring Ronni Ancona. It is called Mums on the Run. It kind of appealed to me. It's one of those happy accidents, just happened to be on the old player of BBC Sounds rather than the iPlayer. And I have to say I was drawn in by the photograph and I thought, oh, I'll just give that a whirl. And she's a single mum bringing up two kids. We'll get to a bit more detail a bit later on, but it's pretty much a modern tale. You might even say a modern morality tale. I don't know what the moral is, though. Having said that, it is now 12 years old, so it's a 2010 vintage. But we'll get to that and we'll play you a couple of audio clips as well. So if you're not familiar with the show or can't get to it in time, we will play those illustrations. O'Connor, what do you want? You got your hand up on Skype.
Sorry, sir. Just wanted to say, sir, is it just me?
Yes. Next question.
Thank you.
Just you in a high-vis jacket with a hood.
Next question is, why is it just me?
Well, I think you're best placed to... No, do finish the question.
Is it just me, or do you also have the feeling... 2010 doesn't seem like 12 years ago. It's really freaky.
It's called denial, isn't it? It's not just a river in Egypt, as the old joke goes. Right. Okay, well, up to you whether you leave the comedy hood on your comedy fleece, but the rest of us are probably sat sitting without high-vis fleeces on. But before we get to dissecting Ronni Ancona, we've got a bit of comedy news, which we tend to do around this time in each episode. And I've dug something out because I set the homework this week for you to listen to, which was the aforementioned radio show. It also fell on me, I've just about recovered from it, to dig out some comedy news. Now, I have primed you on this, but before I primed you this very afternoon... if I'd said to you, could you define the German word Fremdschämen, would you have any idea what the heck I was talking about?
Do you know, I would actually. Well, when I saw it, I thought it was a bit like Schadenfreude.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, is it something along those lines? And it turned out it is. I mean, it kind of does look like that, doesn't it, as well, if you're not kind of squint like that and don't look at it properly. Which is how I read most of the WhatsApps that you send me, just for fear that it's going to be something offensive and quite brutally honest. So I looked at it and I thought, is it? But I'd never heard of it before. I never come across it before. Is it a new phrase? Is it this German thing where it's?
It's new to me. No, it's probably as old as the hills. It sounds like it means friend shaming, but the worst thing you could do, particularly with German, if like me, you're not a German speaker, is to guess.
Right.
it is second-hand embarrassment, or rather it's feeling someone else's embarrassment, not quite on their behalf because they've already got it. You're feeling as well as.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something. I mean, lots of German words are composite, which, as my brother-in-law pointed out, that's why there aren't many puns in German. I couldn't live there and I couldn't learn German. If there's no puns, where's the fun in that?
No. You're right about not guessing German as well, because Neville Chamberlain did that, didn't they? Where he guessed that he'd had in this undertaking that they weren't going to start a war, and he had in his hand a piece of paper, and it wasn't that at all. It was just toilet paper, wasn't it? It
was badly translated from the paper.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I hope they sacked that civil servant, because we could have done without 6 years' war that followed that.
Yeah.
Anyway, parking that to one side, if we may. This is the hook for this particular comedy story, which was in The Independent, which you'll find at independent.co.uk. The headline is 10 out of 10 for awkwardness. There's a clue. Why we can't get enough Fremdschämen. And the hook is 10%. Have you heard about this show, even if you haven't seen it, which is on Prime Video?
No, I haven't seen it, and I hadn't heard about it. I don't have Prime, so
that ticks all the negative boxes. Then, really,
I've never heard of Germany, and I'm not quite sure who you are, to be honest with you.
Have you heard of television, Grandad? It's one of those newfangled things.
Do you want a bag on your head?
Have you heard? Yeah, have you heard of Call My Agent, which is a French show, but it's doubtless. I think it's with subtitles in the UK, certainly.
No, I'm not. Do you know? And I'm just looking at the artwork for all of this that you sent me on this story, and it looks horrible. This is the new thing now, isn't it? From the Prime clan and the Netflix clan, is they make these things that are like really high gloss, and I hate them. I hate the way they look. I hate the way they're set. I hate the characters in them. I just can't. I can't connect with them. Give me a kind of down to earth Steptoe and Son set any day of the week. I don't. It says more about me than you probably need to know. But yeah, I looked at it and I thought, it's all too nicey glossy, isn't it?
Are you talking particularly about the publicity shot that I'm looking at?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've not seen. I mean, I can only guess that there are some stills of from it, and I mean, people listen to this and think, what's the matter with him? Is he complaining that it's beautifully shot and
well, I was going to get onto that because I can imagine certain people in the listening audience, their blood boiling, thinking that this guy is actually making the case for poor production values.
Although, would their blood be boiling, or would they actually be nodding sagely and agreeing with me? Because if Netflix viewing figures and shares are anything to go by, then most people are on my side and not.
Wow, I think you're putting 2 and 2 together and making 7. I'm not sure about that. I for one, I love the look of shows these days. The only thing is, it's so sumptuous. I mean, okay, it wasn't a comedy, but I was watching a science show once, and there's 2 minutes of the most spectacular, graphics, CGI stuff, universes, solar system, clever sort of dinosaur setting and all of that. And I thought after the 2 minutes, what have I actually learned? And it was next to all, really. But they were beautiful, sumptuous images, so they can be very seductive, and then you realise it's a whole heap of nothing, really. But what if you have sumptuous images, and what if it turned out that you liked 10%? That wouldn't be a bad thing, surely.
I think it's a portent of the kind of writing that it is. I think that's what I found, is that it's like kind of what was that one we it's a guy's name, wasn't it? The one we watched about the English football club with an American in it.
The Richmond thing.
Yeah. That's the kind of, it's like kind of got all the high production values, but when you poke it, it's just like somebody's left an old shredded wheat there. You know what I mean? There's nothing in it. It's
maybe you need 3 shredded wheat then, Mr. Hartman.
Do you know what I mean, though? It's that kind of, it's all style over substance.
But you've gone in reverse in a way, though, I'd say, because you've looked at the image first without knowing the show. Look, give me sumptuous images any day, plus content and something with a bit of substance to it.
Who was it that said, always judge a book by its cover?
Nobody has ever said that.
Oh, right. Okay.
They say the exact reverse.
Okay.
Anyway.
Wow.
Shall we move on to the matter in hand, the show Mums on the Run? And I'm bound to ask you, as is now an established feature in this fine show, the Comedy Slab, how you reacted. I tried to trip you up, didn't I, saying it was a show with Ronnie in, and of course I wrong-footed you.
Yeah.
But fair dues. But once you knew it was Ronni Ancona in this role, did you have any preconceptions, any conceptions at all?
No, I mean, I said the tail end of last week, I was saying I've got this thing about impressionists where that I find that embarrassing. I do find...
You don't like Monet or any of those?
Yeah, any of the impressionists, yeah. No, pointillism, I'm good with.
What's the point of that?
Yeah. You must be dotty.
Like Baigneur.
Yeah, so no, but obviously she's playing a character in this. So no, I didn't really. You kind of shocked me as well, saying it's 12 years old because we live in this timeless void now, don't we? Where,
well, you do.
Yeah. But I can't remember how long I've lived here because it's timeless. But
it's time you got a clock.
Yeah. So I kind of thought it was now, really. I was a bit shocked when you said it was 12 years old. I hadn't picked up on that. So, but yeah, no real preconceptions. I never heard it before. Never heard of it before.
Well, probably the easiest way we can illustrate is to play you the first of two audio clips. And I, as I so often do, have nicked an idea from you, Shane, which is to take the clip from very early in the show, so it does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of setting it up. I should say it's Series 1, Episode 1. I'm not sure if it went to any other series, but anyway, S1, E1 of Mums on the Run. And really all I've nipped out is the opening music, so I'll let her do the heavy lifting.
Okay, Toby, Felicity, I need you to answer this question honestly. Do you think I can get away with a short sleeve top? I mean, when does it become unseemly to show your arms?
I don't know, Mum.
Is there an age or is it about elasticity?
Why don't you just wear something with sleeves?
I've run out of clothes. When did everything become dry clean only? I've got a pile of things I can't put in the washing machine. And what with the great moth infestation of 2009, this top's the only thing left. I'll have to rely on the test.
What test?
You know, the bingo wings test. Okay, tell me if there's an after wobble.
Don't do that.
What?
Flap your arms about. You'll start a hurricane somewhere.
Felicity, are you eating your cereal or busking to it?
These are Rice Krispies.
Of course they are.
They're Rice Puffs.
They're exactly the same.
They taste stale.
They're supermarket own brand and 30 pence cheaper. They're still a credit
They
crunch.
don't snap, crackle and pop.
It's just marketing, Felicity. The snap and the crackle, it's a marketing strategy. Okay, come on, we'll be late for school. Let's get going.
S1, E1, isn't that Clapham?
I'll clap them.
So you Clapham, but it's a...
You are, Mum.
Do you want... shall I just get straight into the headline and put you out your misery?
Yeah, I feel it might be your misery, and because it's your misery and because I'm over-empathic, I'm going to feel it as well. That's if I was to guess.
Well, let me tell you my headline, and it might all become apparent to you if it's not already. My headline is, Family Drama Made Me Want to Leave Home.
Okay, but not leave home in the car on the school run listening to Mums on the Run.
Oh, man, could it get any posher?
I knew that prejudice. See, if you flip it around, if I said that was too working class.
It's another posh, white, middle-class family with their first world problems. Is it going to wear a short-sleeve top? I don't care.
Give her monkeys.
I don't. If you want to wear a sack on your head tied with your old-school tie, go for it. I really do. Oh, well, man, I really struggled with it. I'm quite interested in, because you seem to be an advocate of this, and I'm intrigued if you are.
Yeah, well, is it because I'm going out with a single mum who has a daughter? She doesn't have a son and a daughter, but my parents did, apparently. Ask my sister. All the evidence is there. I'm happy enough with that.
I'm going to have to sketch this out.
Or as Ken Dodd said, I've got a brother and a sister. My parents had one of each. He didn't do it with a Les Dawson type accent. How tickled I am. I just thought it was, for once I could just accept a nice light piece of fluff. I like Ronni Ancona. I hadn't heard her, like you, I think you were saying. I hadn't heard her outside of being an impressionist. So, yeah, I suppose I didn't go wild with expectation because it was just a pleasant surprise. I thought, I haven't seen Ronni Ancona for ages or heard her. And I dove, as they say in America, I dove straight in. So, again, there wasn't a chance to overthink, what am I expecting of this? Will she do loads of different voices, which was your worry? At least that didn't come to pass. Wasn't that some consolation?
Yeah, I guess so, really. I mean, it was with all of these things, and particularly with radio, because it is such a long-standing medium, particularly for comedy, I think there is a little bit of an expectation that you want to try and seek out something that is outside of run-of-the-mill. And I found this very kind of run-of-the-mill. To give you an example of, to me, it felt like, if you imagine my family was a minibus and outnumbered was
your
a large...
Your family was a minibus? I can't really...
No, the TV series, My Family Was a Minibus, and outnumbered was a large family saloon. And they both crashed into each other at about 50 miles an hour.
I could see why you look so traumatised and why you're wearing a high-vis fleece.
But then slewed into a bus stop where 13 nuns were waiting to get on the number 47. Do you know, it was just hot. My family and outnumbered was, and I kind of thinking, hasn't this been done better elsewhere?
And your answer is no doubt yes, but where? Where would we go?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I went as far back in my mind's eye as 2.4 Children. Do you remember that?
I worked on it and then I announced it. Yeah, so that does go back a bit.
Yeah.
I had to announce the very show. As an announcer, I had to announce an edition of the show I'd worked on as a sound engineer. And a joker like you through the glass said, that's why we can't hear that scene very well. My reputation went ahead of me. And they weren't any more encouraging about my announcing work either.
Rotters. I'd never do anything like that to you.
No, it's unthinkable, isn't it, that you would be so beastly. So before we get too sidetracked, I love the running gag about the harmonica stroke mouth organ. Is it chromatic or does she always play it like that? And it led to, for me, the best musical gag I'd heard in quite a while, but it's a bit subtle and throwaway. I vaguely remember the sentiment of yours being, this encourages hatred of people who are a bit better off. You have said something like that.
I probably have, yes. It does sound like me. bit vague and wishy-washy and possibly just making it up.
As you go along, as are we all.
Yeah. No, I'm not, because I hate the punching up, punching down phrase because it kind of suggests that where their standing is. So you're assuming that somebody is below you in order to be able to punch down. Do you know what I mean? You go, he's punching down. So what you're saying then, that they are below that person. And so you're making a determination. I'm not doing that at all. What I'm saying is, it was kind of, there was nothing that touched me, connected with me, made me. I'll be honest with you, Adrian. By the time it finished, I hated everybody in it. And Kevin Eldon was not the bright spot. He wasn't what I was talking about when I said there was a bright spot. I was on about John Gordon-Sinclair, who I think is a bit of class, whatever he's in. But I thought Kevin Eldon, the way that they got him to play that was just dreadful. It was just, that was embarrassing. But you saying about your empathy. I mean, did you kind of relate to any of the characters at all, or did you?
Well, I related to her neurosis. I think I connected with that.
Right.
Worrying what other people think, including her kids. Can I wear this top? Look, I know it's not earth-shattering stuff, but there's room in the comedy spectrum for everything from, a life just like mine that's totally identifiable to something that's, almost literally out of this world. I don't know, the Craig Charles and Red Dwarf,
Yeah.
Although that might not be the best example because at the end of the day, it's a group of human beings or humanoid types in close proximity.
But you see, that's interesting, Red Dwarf, that you mentioned that, because if you look in the cast there, like Craig Charles' character, if you're working class or you're not middle class aspirational, you're not upper class, you would relate to him. You might then, if you are any of the other things I just mentioned, relate to Rimmer because he sees himself as, he came from a very well-to-do family and he's very posh and he should have been somebody higher rank than he is. You might relate to Kat, played by Danny John Jules. You might relate to the computer, Holly, whether it's Hattie Hayridge or Norman Lovett. So that there's a kind, but this is just, I just hated them by the time it finished. I couldn't care less about her. I couldn't care less about kids. And I don't want to tell you where I was going to stick that harmonica because I just, it was just horrid. It was just horrid.
Really where are you going to stick it?
Yeah. I don't know what it is about these kind of things, but they really turn me off, baby.
I'm trying to catch you out and, of course, wrong foot you and look for inconsistencies. This is, again, probably not the best example, but when we slabbed George Fouracre's Black Country Gentleman, which hopefully is still on BBC Sounds for them as have got it or can... you can find it on the web, hopefully, bbc.com outside the UK or bbc.co.uk within the UK or at other places. You can certainly hear our review in the archive. Well, he'd made a transition, if one can use that term, about class gear shifting these days.
Yeah, God, who knows what it means, yeah.
Working class background, but then he'd gone to a posh university, which he didn't quite name, I think, which I assumed it was Uxbridge or Oxbridge.
Well, I think if you live in Cradley Heath or wherever, then the university is posh. No matter where it is, it could be anywhere really. I mean, Wolverhampton is posh, so. Well,
is that punching up or punching down?
You've never been to Cradley Heath, have you?
I haven't had that particular privilege, but I was raised in Watford, so anything is possible.
I'm sorry, yeah. I take it all back.
It's all right. I'm getting over it. It's taken decades, but no, I love Watford, but mostly the people rather than the one-way system and the shopping centre. If we're honest,
I couldn't eat a whole one. Go on. So you were saying? So I'd said.
Well, I was just thinking. You absolutely loved that. And
I didn't. I gave it 3.5. I didn't absolutely love it. I mean,
well, by your standards, 3.5 is generosity itself.
Yes.
Anything over half marks for you, you think you're being a blooming saint. I just thought, well, if you applied the sort of ruthless anti-middle classness to him, then you wouldn't have given it 3.5 out of 5.
It's not. I don't have an anti-middle classness or
because you are middle class de facto, surely.
Well, I'm not. I think Dave Facto is, but I'm not.
Facto.
Dave Facto. Yeah, he's a good bloke. It's not an anti thing. I just find it. I find it quite curious that a company like the BBC, who is trying to be all things to all people and equitable and worried about diversity, can something like this how does it get commissioned? I don't understand why they don't go.
But you
hold on a minute, what are you doing?
You gave the game away in the first sentence, which was all things to all people, and surely they're allowed to include white middle class people who pay their licence fees. Hopefully,
well, yeah, unless they don't employ them. But yeah, I mean, I suppose they do. But I mean that you can't on the one hand go, oh, we're fully behind this, and on the other hand, produce something like you think. Well, how does it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, but another time you'll have a go at the beat because you say, "Oh, this is a box ticking exercise, trying to be diverse." So, yeah. I mean, basically, you take any stance versus the BBC you can.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't say that their stance was admirable. I said that's the stance they take, and how can you do that and then commission something like this? I didn't say, and I'm so pleased that they do. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you've never said anything about the beeb, but particularly positive, except you...
They used to, when I paid my invoices, I did. I used to say, I'm glad they paid that. I just didn't think I'd get away with that one this week.
Also, they were the people... OK, it's 45 plus years ago, but they brought you It Ain't Our Fault, Mum. They're now refusing to repeat it, but we'll airbrush that particularly. Yeah. But, you enjoyed that show, and that wouldn't... I don't think that would have existed without the beeb.
But it was a different organisation then, wasn't it? But what I'm saying is, he's having a go at the beeb now. I'm not having a go at the beeb. What I'm saying is that I just find it's just an unusual thing to happen, and I don't know. There was nothing about it that I warmed to, or that, like I say, the characters. I thought, and here's the one. Now, surely you can't disagree with this. I can, and don't call me Shirley.
I can and will do, but try me.
The amount of words that she had to deliver was just ridiculous. I mean, it was. I was just thinking, if you were married to somebody like that, you would spend all your time just with your head in a bucket, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm bound to say perhaps that's why they split up. But yes, that again is a middle-class trait, though, isn't it? And I have been known to be occasionally guilty of having too many syllables in my words. I mean, is that because poor
people don't know a lot of words? Is that what it is? Is that why it's a middle-class trait?
No, poor people... I don't think I should even stoop not to poor people because they're not beneath me. Because I am one of them. I get a pain in the back of my neck working with you.
I'm really watching you.
It's more the reason I feel some of the finest, or most of the finest stand-up comics tend to come from working class backgrounds. Well, that's how I feel. That's not a scientific statement. You can probably pull it apart. But I think working class culture, you've got to get to the punchline quickly, otherwise you've lost your audience, and your audience is, your family round the table, or folks around in the pub, or wherever else, the clubs, restaurants, wherever you go.
But did you think it was too verbose? I mean, it was.
Yes, that was a weakness. It's not flawless. But I just thought there were enough redeeming things in it just to be, sowing the seed. I thought the kids were quite good. And the son says, because this is leading, I'm leading on to one of the few, for you, highlights, because in the next clip we've got John Gordon-Sinclair. Have I got that in the right order?
Three lovely blokes, yeah.
All the right. It's a firm of solicitors, I seem to recall. Yeah. Anyway, he's Mr Rigby. Is that
Ellis Jones? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Is that a Rising Damp tribute?
That's Rigsby, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, close, but no cigar. Anyway, I'm leading up to that because he plays a teacher that she kind of got the hots for. This crops up in the car before they meet. In this episode, they've met before. Obviously, that's how she's, she's got some hots for him. And I think she confesses to her son. He said, "Oh, you do that silly thing, playing with your hair and making silly mum jokes or whatever." And sure enough, it's nice setting the scene. Anyway, well, without giving too much away, why don't we hear Mr. Sinclair, one of the partners at the solicitor's firm, and. We've still got the son in the car. I'm not sure if the daughter's got out by now, but anyway, they're at the school gate, and sure enough, Mr. Rigby rocks up, and we'll just hear what ensues.
Mrs. Shelton.
Call me Jen.
Jen. I'd really like to talk to you about...
My bad behaviour?
Your son's progress at school, actually.
Yes, of course.
Mum, you're doing that thing with your hair.
Are you going to be late for school, Toby? Off you go.
Anything but this.
Specifically his behaviour in my class. It's his attitude mainly. He answers back an awful lot.
He's at that age.
He's very easily distracted.
Oh, you've got some chewing gum stuck to your jacket.
What?
On the lapel.
Oh, not again.
No, the left one.
Sometimes the kids, they throw stuff and it
Would you like me to?
No.
Because you can just iron it off with some newspaper, that's supposed to work.
Thanks.
Sorry, it's just that if I had a bogey hanging from my nose, I'd like someone to tell me. Oh, God, I don't, do I?
Oh, don't think so.
Phew.
He's already been in detention twice this term.
Has he?
Well, don't you get my letters?
Yes, of course. Oh, and I'm so sorry about the school gate.
What?
Pardon?
Yeah, I'm talking about Toby.
Of course, yes.
I think it's imperative that we should talk about these issues. Perhaps we could meet after school.
I always think he's a bit of a class act. John Gordon-Sinclair, he does straight acting, he does comedy as well, doesn't he? But, the other thing I was going to say, and it kind of put me in mind there, in my notes I put it's all very Islington, isn't it? That they reference North London, they're in North London somewhere. And that was the other thing as well, is that, and I'm not really quite sure whether it was at the time, but again, the BBC are talking about, we want to get out of the capital, we want to, we moved everybody to Salford, and we're doing this, we've done that, and all the rest of it. We're not Pebble Mill down, all that was a mistake. And they go on about this kind of getting out of London, and here they are. It's another one set in London. You kind of
do I need to remind you this is 2010? I'd say even in those 12 years, which you're in denial are 12 years. There has been a culture shift, but then there will always be shows about North London. North London's not going anywhere. If you think the capital's got 8.75 million people in it, it is the largest by a long chalk, largest city in the UK. It is the capital. Yes, it happens to be within easy reach on the underground of Broadcasting House, but people do actually live there. There is a North London culture.
And again, it's not me saying that they should come out of there, but they say on the one hand, we should come out of there, and then on the other, they're commissioning stuff like this. I mean, I would argue that if you look at the demographics of London, you probably wouldn't find that the majority are consumers of this kind of show anyway. So it kind of shoots itself in its own foot there, doesn't it? Really, but I just wonder how much it would take to just set it in Plymouth or Newcastle, or it's radio. You don't even have to go there, do you? All you've got to do is change some of the words on the script.
But perhaps they didn't even go to North London. We don't know.
They better not have recorded this in South London, otherwise I should be writing to my MP about it. It's not at all, is it really?
Make sure your MP's not in South London.
My MP, you don't even want to know about my MP, but...
is it a name that we could conjure with?
Oh, God, yeah. It's a wig that you could conjure with, definitely.
Oh,
definitely.
Okay. I'm not even going to go there for fear of libel or worse.
The interesting thing, I did a bit of to quote Alan Partridge, scout about. I did a bit of a scout about to have a look, see if I could find some reviews or, what people thought of it, whatever. The Guardian loved it, interestingly.
There's a shock.
And on their website...
They said it was a bit over the top, I think, I read.
No, I thought they loved it. But anyway, if you scroll down, you see there's one comment there from one of their clientele, I presume. It said,
old-fashioned, virtually spitting out the word.
Old-fashioned style done badly. The actors deserve better. Admittedly, this is based only on a 10-minute listen. For traditional sitcoms, things like Cabin Pressure are infinitely superior because on radio you just can't get away with it if the writing isn't decent. And I think actually that was quite an interesting point that they made there. I think, all of the things that I mentioned aside, I wonder whether the words were up to it, really. And
let's talk about the writer. I have to say, she's not known to me, but I'm learning fast because I've learnt that she's an actor as well as a writer. Do you know...
She's in it, isn't she? She's actually in it.
Right. Alexis, is it Zegerman?
Zegerman, Zegerman.
I'm guessing. Or Zegerman.
You say potato. And
I say potato. So what does she play? Who does she play in it?
She there's a minor character about 2/3 of the way through, I think, and that's her. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of the time when I say nothing resonated with me, and I kind of think, well, was it supposed to? Am I what they were looking for to sit down and listen to this? Did it go out after Woman's Hour, or do you know what I mean?
Is that the ultimate put down? It went out after Woman's Hour.
Is that, you're not probably going to get a lot of people like me listening if it goes out after. I mean, I haven't listened to Radio 4 for a long time, but, when I did, even Woman's Hour was the limit for me. That was in the Jenny Murray days. But, what I'm saying is, I don't know. I'm going, this isn't for me. And they might go, well, it isn't for you.
Yes. Well, I think we've established, reading ever so slightly between the lines, that it isn't for you.
Is that the impression you're getting? Sorry.
Well, I'd have preferred a Ronni Ancona impression, but sadly we weren't treated to one. Other than, do you think she's being herself here, or is she Scottish? And I'm not hearing any Scottishness in her voice, but I just got this vague recollection. There might be some Scottish roots. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't really know much. Like you say, you don't see her very often, do you, on the TV or
no?
Or
I wonder.
On the radio?
I wonder where she is now.
12 years ago as well, I would have thought there would have been somebody there with a clipboard who would have said, I'm not happy about the stereotypes in the writing as well. You know, the guy who works in the chicken burger shop was portrayed as being a bit thick. The doorman was black. You kind of think, are we stereotyping here or not? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I refer the Honourable Gentleman again to the fact it's 2010. It's quite... I think there's been a shift even in the last decade on those kind of things. But you will always find exceptions. It's a broad church. Comedy, radio comedy, BBC radio comedy.
I have to say, none of these things bother me. It's just I enjoy hitting people with their own stick. That's all it is.
I could tell. I mean, I think our very discerning listeners sensed you were enjoying the ride. I'm trying to see if we can find out anything about whether Ronni Ancona has done anything that we should know about in recent years. I'm trying to see. 2020, she appeared as a contestant on the Christmas special of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, celebrity special. Your favourite show, I seem to recall from the mocking laughter. It doesn't look like she's doing an awful lot, but that may well be by choice. That is her prerogative. I can't see, unless I'm missing something here. It's all looking, a little bit like she might be doing other things in more recent years.
On a positive note, did you like the sound effects? There were a lot in
yours
there,
or theirs?
Theirs mainly. There were a lot, weren't there? They used they did not get
stuck
in.
A little bit heavy. I thought, for instance, the clip we just heard, the school playground was turned up to 11, perhaps a bit. But yeah, I do like effects, and then there's this whole subplot about the ex-husband being a jazz musician. I thought that took us to more interesting places. We had Ronni Ancona and Ronnie Scott, if I wasn't greatly mistaken. The two Ronnies. Okay. On which dubious note, we must score this show out of 5. Why do I feel you're not going to get into double figures?
Well, I can't anyway.
It'd be weird if you did, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah.
Unless it was 1.0.
Do you want me to go first?
I wish you would, just to get the pain out of the way. And of course, because I'm over-empathic, I feel it.
1.
It's above 0, which you have given before now. So how very generous of you.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we need further explanation. And I can't pretend to be shocked. New listeners might think he can't really be that mean. Trust me, friends, he is.
Seriously, if you're struggling with it, go and have a listen to it and see what you think.
Well,
seriously.
But we advise that anyway, don't we? If we give it 5 out of 5, we say go and have a listen to it for slightly different reasons. But yeah, always. We are not the experts. We are just people who normally love comedy. Very occasionally we agree. No, actually, we have been, I think my girlfriend pointed out, you and I have been on an agreeing streak, which we've now broken, obviously, on this. But,
yes. Yeah, we have, haven't we? That's a bit worrying in and of itself, isn't it?
Well, it had to happen, didn't it? You know, it's like having several days of good weather. You think, well, it's got to crack eventually, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm tempted to give it 5 out of 5 just to pee you off, but it's for me between 3.5 and 4. Just gut feeling. I was in the right mood, right place, right time. Just a pleasant surprise. Stumbling across Ronni Ancona, I hadn't heard of for some years. For too long, she'd been missing from my life. I'm going to give it 4. And
4?
Yes, in for a penny.
Have you got Ronni Ancona there with you?
She is my girlfriend. Did I not explain? Anyway, that's 5 out of 10. It's still only half marks, which you think of as generous, but half marks is only halfway there. But anyway, that's what it is. It is what it is, as they say.
They do say that.
So, and you will find that on BBC Sounds. In Shane's view, for too long. In my view, not long enough. And that was a BBC Radio production, and it must be homework time for next week.
It is. Can I just say, just because I don't like something, though, I don't wish it dead. Do you know what I mean? There's a space there for, if people want to listen to it, then I'm more than happy for them to go ahead and have a listen to it, and that's fine if you love it. I mean, there's great. No, but it's like, you were saying about, it's too long. I don't mind if people get pleasure from it. That's great. I mean, there's a whole swathe of programming that I wouldn't even, pick up the remote control to switch on. So. But I accept that people love that. I'm thinking like Saturday night programming, for example, on BBC One and ITV.
Anti-deck.
Or the shouty programmes, as I call them, because everybody appears to be shouting at each other on them.
Oh, you sound like an elderly person now. We in the trade call them shiny floor shows, which is very hard to say after you've been in the bar for a few.
Oh, yeah. No, can I correct you? I don't sound like an elderly person, because they might not be able to hear it, even if they are shouting. So,
get you and your ageism. I'll report you to the BBC Police.
Please, if you would, yes.
And by the way, I don't want to spoil the gag, but I started to refer to my favourite musical gag. You didn't even like the musical gag at the end with the daughter.
No, well, I could hear it coming. So,
that's called a build-up to a gag, but.
Yeah, but I could hear it in the background happening. Do you know what I mean? And I thought,
can I say it? Well, fast forward this bit if for 30 seconds if you think you're going to listen to the show. But essentially, there's a sort of you heard the harmonica earlier or mouth organ. It suddenly becomes weaker, and then you realise she's fallen asleep with the mouth organ in her mouth, and she's breathing in and out. I thought that was funny. I'd never heard that done.
I did laugh at one line. I laughed out loud, actually, at one line. And it was when she was saying at school, she was saying to her son, they used to call me such and such. I can't remember what it was now. And he said, I thought they used to call you Noddy Holder because of your hair. And I laughed at.
Was that because it was a West Midlands joke?
No, well, I just imagined her having hair like Noddy Holder. It's not a compliment, is it, when people say that to a lady?
Maybe not to a lady, no. Anyway, your homework for next week.
Homework for next week is, and I'm not going to prolong the dramatic effect of this. I think suffice to say, it's interesting. It was something you said a while ago. Who was it that said about comedies, or part of comedies about confinement?
I don't know who said it, but it is often said. It's a bit of a cliche, but it certainly applied to porridge. You couldn't get more confinement really than a prison. But are you going? We're not doing porridge again.
Not again. No, better not add with really. Otherwise, people might talk. No, I was thinking of. Like I say, I'm not going to drag it out. Peter Kay's car share, or it's just sometimes called car share. I can't really. Sometimes it's called Peter Kay's car share, and sometimes it's called car share. But it was one of those that I never really took to, and I thought the only way I'm going to watch this blooming thing is by sticking it on the slab and hopefully
see who salutes.
Yeah, I'll either know that I hate it or I'm indifferent to it, or I blooming love it. So I thought, well, I'll stick that on. Series 1, episode 3 I've gone for.
Randomly.
I am that kind of person.
Well, there's a thing. Okay, well, stick your thumb out for Peter Kay, or is it Peter Kay's car share, or just car share? Series 1, episode 3 is our collective homework. Thank you very much for that. Well, I'm thanking you now. Will I be thanking you next week? So it falls to me to mention anti-social media. On Twitter, we are at Comedy Slab, and the same handle is also where you'll find our Facebook page at Comedy Slab. For that, if you could like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter, we'd be well chuffed. As we would if you could pass on the good word, fight the good fight for hopefully what you think of as the good Comedy Slab. Tell your friends. That's my catchphrase. Tell your enemies as well, particularly if you think it will naff them off. To borrow a sort of phrase from porridge. And then finally, a nice, generous star rating on Apple Podcasts / iTunes would be warmly received, along with your warm words, we hope. We hope.
That's it from us. Thank you very much for your company. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm going to have a step up now from Mums on the Run and go and watch something much more intellectual like My Family or Outnumbered.
All I can picture is a road traffic accident between the two vehicles.
It will be forever known as that, won't it now? it's an image I can't get out of my head as well. No, in all seriousness though, I'm going off to do my hair like Noddy Holder and see if I can attract a jazz musician. Oh man, I tell you, I'm sorry for being so negative. I'm not normally like this.
Well, our listeners can decide whether that's the case. I was lost for words, which doesn't often happen. The sheer cheek of it, the chutzpah, if you will. Anyway, I'm going off to take part with the other Ronnie in a sketch set in a ball bearing factory. I play the part of a man who's lost his bearings.
and I played the shop steward.